So in the last tutorial, we actually animated the bouncing ball that we see on this girl's screen. In this video, we're going to take a look at some basic compositing, and we'll do a little bit better job of what I did here. I rushed this for this tutorial and for this class, this week's lesson. But you can see there's a little bit of green from the green screen there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the old bouncing ball file, and we'll go ahead and start working on how to render this out. All right, so this is the bouncing ball that we created last time. If I hit spacebar here, I'm gonna hold shift and middle mouse click to pan. You can see that our ball is bouncing. I'm gonna be doing a little bit less of the micro explaining, like, holding shift or middle mouse to zoom after a couple of these videos, because I'm gonna assume at this point that you're a lot more comfortable moving around Blender. So here's our ball bouncing, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to have my camera. So if I click this view, you can see our camera's kind of looking at the ball itself. Yours could probably be looking at different locations. It could be looking at the ground. What I want to do is this view that I'm looking at now, I'd like to move my camera there. Now the camera itself, if you go over here to render properties, this is your different settings for how to render, and then this is your output. So how many frames per second, the resolution of your camera. I'm going to keep it at 1920 by 1080 because I'm pretty sure that that screen size of that monitor will fit this. So with this view, I'm going to hold shift and middle mouse, click here. What I want to do is I'm going to go up to view here, and you want to look for align view and then align active camera. This is the camera in our scene to view. Now, if I have the camera deselected, I just want to point this out, it'll still work. But if you have the camera selected, you at least know that the camera is selected by the highlight. Now, if I middle mouse click in the scene and I move, you could see that our camera is there. But what I'd like to do is frame my camera, or make it easier to frame my camera so that like the bouncing ball animation is I have the ball entering. So just kind of a little bit of storytelling, like, as she's programming, she's coding the camera or, the ball going across the scene in and out of the frame. So kind of like the way they do in movies. So I'm going to go ahead and hit N as in Nancy, or you can click this little like arrow here to open this up. And if you go to view here, it says this, we have this view lock section. I'm going to lock my camera to view. And then what this will allow me to do is sort of play with, I'm holding shift and middle mouse clicking, by the way, to pan, but play with how the view looks. I'm going to hit N again to hide that. So on frame 0, I'm going to have the ball leap into frame and then keep going until it's out of frame. Now, you could zoom out a little bit depending on how you want this to look, and then you could play with the panning. I'm just going to go in a lot more because for me, there's a lot of gray area, which is boring. So the more screen I have of that ball bouncing, the better. It looks just more interesting, Now, if I want to see what this looks like rendered, I'm going to go ahead and hit F12 on my keyboard. And you can see there's nothing there. And the reason for that is because we don't have the ball in the scene. So I'm going to pan over a little bit. Now, I don't know if I want my ball. I'm going to go all the way over here. I want some sort of immediacy on the screen. So I'm going to hit F12 here. And that's very dark. And I could do things like I have a light in my scene now. I could add additional lights, but I think for now, the fact that we have anything on our scene is fine. We'll have another video that gets into lighting and how to match lighting to live footage. But for now, this is a very basic tutorial and there's a lot to cover. So this is really just about rendering. So once we're happy with this, let's play with some of our settings for rendering. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a renderer here, and this one is Eevee, which is you could think of it as like Unreal or some of these game engines. When you render, you're rendering in live, like live view. If I switch this to cycles and I render this way, if I hit it, you could see that we get a little bit more, there's a little bit more time added to our render at 52%. Now, if I change this to Eevee and I hit F12, let's take a look. Notice that there was like almost no render time. Cycles is a much more accurate phaser, but it adds a little bit of time to our scene. Now, I don't know how powerful of a computer you're using, so we're going to keep it as Eevee. Now, I do have a pretty powerful computer with a very expensive graphic card. So I'm going to do CPU, instead of CPU, I'm going to do GPU compute, and I'm going to hit F12 here. And you'll notice a significant difference in the speed of the render because it's using my GPU. It's a lot quicker, and the quality is a lot better. But again, I still have that render time. So for us, we're just going to do Eevee. and then I'm going to hit F12, and you can see it's almost exact. So we're just doing that for now, and then we could just kind of go this way a little bit, hit F12 again. It looks fine. Now, if you want to, notice we have that highlight there. Now, if you want to see, actually, I'm going to pause for a moment and just switch up. If you want to see what the viewport shading will look like with the render, do you see that highlight? And if I hit F12, you can see it looks almost exact. So this is really where you want to be when you're looking at renders. Now, if I select my light and I don't like, let's say, for instance, that highlight, and go down to the light here, and I could take my specularity all the way down, and now when I hit F12, you can see it's gone. I could take it back up to return it. Same thing with diffuse. I can actually make it the diffuse light, which is the light that's hitting it on that surface. I can play with that. So it's up to you if you want to keep that highlight. For me, the spec looks kind of outdated, like 1980s. So let me select that light again. So I tend to just sort of soften it a lot and may not make it so pronounced because it bugs me a little bit. But really, it's all preference for your film. Okay, so now that we have our light set up, the next thing we want to do is our output. Now for my output, I generally do not do PNG. So I'm going to go here and I'm just going to go to video here, and I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call this movie. And this is really a generic form for, we're going to make a little shot of the person typing on a computer. Again, for your homework, you're going to do it of yourself. And I'm just going to name this bouncing ball. And I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. Now, I don't want it as a PNG. PNGs are single images. I really want this to be a FMPEG video. And you can see there's some other stuff. You could do AVI and all these other things. For now, we're going to do FMPEG video. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to make it compatible with more Mac computers, because this is what we use in school. I'm using a PC to do this, and a lot of you have Mac. So anyway, long story, if you're using a PC, I generally do H.264. MPEG is much smaller. For the best quality, in my opinion, you want to go with QuickTime, which for some reason, did I not switch this? Let's see, encoding. Oh, here we go. Under container here, we're going to do QuickTime. And honestly, the video codecs H.264 is fine for me. And because this is going to be much smaller on the screen, now if you're going to do a 4K shot, you want to do medium to high quality. And honestly, it's rendering pretty quick on my computer. I can leave it at medium quality. But if you really want this to be a portfolio piece and you have a really good animation, you can go lossless or high quality. So you could either hit Control F12 or go to render and render animation. And then you'll see here that it's rendering really quickly. And I was going to pause the video. Now here's the other thing. My video was set to 120 frames. I should have clarified this. If you want to change the end time of your animation, you can change it all the way up to 240 here. And if you're not sure what frame you're on, you can change this to here by typing in a number to 1 if you get lost. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go to my video folder. So here we are in my videos folder. I'm going to go to movie here, and I'm going to double click this, and you can see we have a really nice bouncing ball animation. Now we could slow it down and clean it up by playing with the frame rate of 24 frames a second. I just left it at 30 because most likely the footage that we're going to use in the next video is set to 30 frames. Okay, that's enough for this rendering video. In the next tutorial, we'll take a look at the other part, which is what I showed you in the beginning, which is the compositing of this inside of a scene.